In this video, we talk about, can you buy a house before it goes on auction? Did you even know it's possible to buy a house before it goes through the auction process? That's right. I'm going to teach you in this video how to snag a property at discount before it even goes to the foreclosure auction process. You won't have to deal with all that bidding and everything else on the foreclosure sale. In this video, we're going to explain how you could buy a house before it goes to the auction block, and then what to expect, and some tips on making it happening and taking action. So first, let's talk about, what does it mean to buy a house before it goes to auction? Buying a house before it goes to auction means purchasing it directly from the owner, and that's kind of going through the foreclosure process right now. This is someone that they missed a few payments, and the bank is about to start the foreclosure auction process. So you want to find these people and deal with them directly. And this process is oftentimes called the pre-foreclosure process, or a short sale process, when the property owner owns more than what the house is worth and he has his market value. So why would a seller agree to sell early in this pre-foreclosure stage? There's several reasons. Some of them, they might just want to avoid foreclosure and all the negative impacts that comes with having a bank or foreclosure on your credit report and getting loans in the future. I'll stick around for several years on a credit report. And there could be the lender might want to do a short sale or accept someone in the pre-foreclosure process, because they'll save money. They don't have to do all the legal fees that they'll have to do to take it to the foreclosure auction. And then both parties might just want a quick resolution. If you provide a quick cash offer, it satisfies both buyer or maybe the lender's needs. If it's a short sale, they're happy to move on to sellers. Now, what are the steps when you buy a house in this pre-foreclosure process stage before auction? So some of the things that you want to talk about is, first, you got to identify the properties. Where are these pre-foreclosure properties? And what you want to do, there's plenty of different marketing companies out there that have marketing lists that you can purchase and kind of download the data into an Excel spreadsheet. And from there, you could send letters out to these people, or maybe if you're able to do a skip trace and figure out how to call or email them as well. But essentially, these are people with notice of default or list pendants in the public records. And then there's online platforms, like I mentioned earlier, that data marketing companies that go and get this information, where you could purchase this list. And you kind of pick what county or zip codes you want to market to, and those data companies you could easily do that online, purchasing those lists. There's plenty of data companies out there. And then once you have this list, you want to contact the owner that's in this pre-foreclosure stage. And there's different ways to contact them. I've known people in the past that did door knocking. That takes a different type of skill set from a sales perspective. A lot of people do direct mail with postcards or letters, and you just don't want to send one. You probably want to send a few in a short time period to get through and get to the intention of the buyer, of the person, I should say, in pre-foreclosure. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there's other sources out there. If they're not on do not call list and things like that, you can maybe skip trace and give them a call to see if they're receiving your letters and open to talking about potentially selling their property before it goes to foreclosure. And then once you have people start contacting you and that are interested in meeting with you, you got to research the property. You should know the market you're in, but if you know houses fixed up or selling for $600,000 after repair value, and it needs about $75K for full renovation, you factor in holding costs, financing costs, and how much profit you want to make to kind of come in with your maximum offer that you would want to offer the property owner. And then, knowing this, you start the negotiation process with the homeowner in pre-foreclosure. And once you guys decide on a fair price that satisfies everyone's needs, you could do the contract work and get your financing in place and go through a normal title process. Now, if it's a short sale, that's a whole different process, where the lender is going to have to approve the sale price, because essentially they're taking a haircut on the loan, where they're not receiving, a loan might have been like $300,000, but your offer's at $250,000. So that's a $50,000 impact to the bank, and that's the short sale. So it's a totally different process that we could share other videos on what that is. And then lastly, once you have an agreement, let's say it's a non-short sale, you have an agreement with the homeowner, secure your financing and making sure that you get the close done in time and paid everything back that covered a loan and everything else as part of the closing process. Now, what are some of the benefits of buying before auction in this pre-foreclosure process? Some of the things are, potential savings. Especially, a lender, if it's a short sale perspective, they might not have all the legal fees to go through all the auction processing and marketing of the property. Some might say you're avoiding competition before it might hit the MLS or going to the auction. However, a lot of people do market to pre-foreclosure, so the people receiving postcards and letters will probably have a bunch of investors mailing them the same kind of message that you are. So make sure you stand out from the pack and have a message that's compelling enough for the homeowner to call you and not someone else. And then there's other risks, less risks involved. By you not buying it at auction, you could actually walk the property with the owner, understand what's broken, what's not, what needs to be repaired, what doesn't. So those are some of the benefits of buying in the pre-foreclosure process and not waiting until the foreclosure process. And then some risk and challenges in this pre-foreclosure process is it could be time consuming, right? You have to potentially negotiate with lenders if it's a short sale, and this could take months or weeks and before you knowing if that's offered or not. And then obviously you might get unclear title if this person's behind on their first position mortgage and why they're being foreclosed on. What other liens do they have on the property that need to be resolved as well? And then you might get, some owner resistance. Some homeowners might not be in the best mind going through this tough stage in the pre-foreclosure process. So you got to be respectful of them and understanding they're going through a stressful time as well. What are the tips now for a successful pre-foreclosure, pre-auction process? Some tips are, on top of knowing your numbers, make sure you work with a local agent too, that could help guide you through the process or at least confirm your numbers that they make sense. And they'll most likely will get the listing too if you're going to buy, renovate, and rehab. So you might as well utilize them since you're rewarding them on the sell side. You want to make sure you hire the right title company to make sure that there's clean title that you're buying. There's no other surprise liens out there that you might have not been aware of that could make the deal go sideways. And you got to be patient at the end of the day. It's a numbers game. How many letters do you have to send out before you get calls back? And then from there, offers made to offers accepted, and then actually going through the closing process. So knowing your numbers, being patient, and understanding that a lot of times you're not going to get a win on the first mailing. So lastly, if you got a lot of value out of this video, smash the like button. Feel free to share to someone else. If you decide, pre-foreclosures might not be for you, you want to learn more of the auction process, check out some videos below in the show notes that we have on the actual auction process.